Can you see?
Wonderful.
Hello.
Hi. Good morning.
Here, the whole gym is full.
The whole gym is full.
Okay. And so am I, full of coffee.
Okay, I want to introduce to you today first our principal, Mr. Mario Jarvis.
What did she say?
She's introducing you to the principal, Mario Jarvis.
Good day,
Good listening.
Good day, Mr. Straus. How are you today?
I am fine, thank you.
And we'd like to take this opportunity to once again express our very sincere gratitude for your extreme generosity to our school. Later we'll get a chance to show you some of the things we've already used your money to purchase and to enhance our school here. You'll also get a chance to see our student body as we're sitting on to my right here.
You know what? We're getting interference. We're getting it's a little cutting in and out.
It was perfect up to
It was fine up until school, but then it started cutting in and out a little bit. Can you pick up from there?
I will try to talk a little slower. Are you getting me?
Yes, we are getting you, absolutely.
Okay. Again, we'd just like to express our sincere gratitude for your great generosity towards our school.
Can you hear him, Dad?
There's nothing now.
But he's...
Yeah, I heard it.
Oh, okay, you can talk whenever you want.
But is he not talking?
He's not
Might want to
now, but he did
Okay.
it for your generosity.
You don't have to whisper.
Okay.
Yeah, I got it fine.
Okay.
No, I'll tell you if I know it.
All right, but Dad, this is a conversation. You can
I
talk.
understand that, but it's...
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. I'm going to pass it over to Mrs. Keenan and Grace. We're going to ask you some questions about your experience when you were shipwrecked here near Long.
Okay, that's fine. And incidentally, I would just like to say that the generosity of the people of Lorne is very hard to even use just thank you as an answer, because we're talking about my life that was given to me by the humanity and the dangers they overcame.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Straus, is this any different? Can you hear any better with the mic? I'm using a microphone now.
Is the microphone better?
Would you try it again, please?
Can you hear this any better?
I was hearing fine without the microphone, but the microphone sounds okay too, so whichever you want to use.
Okay. So we're going to get the grade 9 students to come forward. They're going to ask you one question at a time.
What I got is that they're going to ask me one question, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay, come forward. Sherry?
No. It's probably better without it.
Moving closer. Who's going to do first? Riley, loud. Go right in close to the computer so the computer will keep going. Loud.
Bend down a little bit. You can't see your face.
Look in the corner clear so you can see your face.
Bend down. Kneel down.
No, we won't hear you if you go back.
There you go.
Let me go back. Oh, okay.
Hello, Mr. Straus. My name is Raleigh Strand. I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about being a member of the Pollux crew before the disaster took place on February 18, 1946.
See if you got it.
Okay, I'll try to. It was quite a while ago. No, I'm sure. And how are you this morning?
Mr. Straus?
Good. I'm glad to hear that. So am I. The happened was when Britain declared war, I joined the reserve. That was, I guess, 1938, thereabouts. And we were called to active duty on the Pollux, which was a supply ship, and put into new condition. And that was maybe 8 months before Pearl Harbor. And one of the jobs that we had was taking supplies to Argentina, Newfoundland, to build bait Argentina. And the crew was a big crew, big Navy, 1/3 officer unit. So we kind of stumbled around in the early days while they tried to teach what we were supposed to be doing. And in the reserve, there were friends and acquaintances that worked with every Monday night, week on a crude for each year before we got called up. And there was a little strange between Navy, guys who'd been in the Navy for 20 years. We were kids. So it took a little while they're getting used to us, I guess. It took a little while for us to get used to. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Straus.
Thank you for the question. How was that?
Hello, Mr. Straus.
Hi.
My name is Brandon Plate, and I was wondering if you wouldn't mind giving us a little personal background information about your life before the Pollux disaster. Specifically, could you tell us a little information about your life, including your age at the time, and some information about your family and situation at that time?
Okay. As far as I remember, I was born on December 30th, 1914. I held on to the year 1914 as long as I could before 1915 came in. And I was born in New York City, which I'm sure you're familiar hearing about. And I was raised in New York City, Manhattan, which was kind of an island. And I lived there until I got married, and I was married at 22 weeks. And we moved to Greenwich Village, and 8 months later, I was called to active duty. That was maybe 7, 8 months before Pearl Harbor. I went to school, we went in high school, and then went to New York University. And I graduated from New York University 1936. And that was the middle of the Depression. And it was virtually impossible job. So I decided that what I wanted to do is I had never been outside of New York City all my life, and I didn't know what the United States was like, except I knew it was big. So I bought a notice and took off to see the United States. Now this was in the middle of the Depression, so it was not an unhappy time for the United States. And I bought a motorcycle, and it started to be a lot of the roads west of Chicago were gravel, dirt, and think about between then and now, traveled to northwest corner of the United States, went to Canadian, then went down through California, into Mexico, and across and back to New York, and spent maybe 4 months. I did that in the United States. I had a better understanding of the variety of people in the United States. How's that?
That's good. Thank you.
Hello, Mr. Straus. My name is Christopher Buckman.
Good morning. I know they're pushing you around.
I want to appreciate it. Describe the actions that took place February 18th, 1942.
Okay, as well as I remember it, and I think I remember it pretty well. We had been taking supplies back and forth between the base in Trinidad and the base in Argentina, Newfoundland, which was just really being built. And we left Norfolk, Virginia, and to Portland, Maine, and this was in February, February 8th or 9th or so. And of course it got colder and colder as we moved from Virginia to Maine, and little ice would start to form every once in a while. And then for the first time, we found ourselves leaving Portland for Argentina, Newfoundland. This, of course, was a few years before you were born. And excuse me just a minute, but
That is right here, so you're looking at him, which is great.
can you see me all right?
Yep.
But I'm getting instructions from my daughter. And the camera's just a little green dot on it. So, do me a big favor, if I fade out or I get too close or too far back, just tell me, okay?
Okay.
Well, what happened is when we left Maine, it was starting to snow a little bit. For the first time, so-called really, we had 2 destroyers escorting us because there was a big German submarine wolf pack in the area, and I guess they thought the destroyers was being torpedoed. And we zigzagged then, so that you didn't go in a straight line, but you went back and forth, maybe 45, 60 degrees on each side, which made it slower, made it more difficult for submarines to be able to hit you with a torpedo. So the 3 of us were zigzagging like a couple of, as they say, of drunken sailors, all up and down the water, and all of a sudden, it started to become stormy. And it became so stormy, waves were maybe 4 to 5 feet high, that's 4.5 stories. And it got bitterly cold, and it snowing so heavily that you could barely see the bow of the ship. And we did that for a couple of days, and obviously in those days we didn't have all the electronics they have today. We found our position by shooting stars for the sun. And in a heavy snowstorm, there were no stars and there were no sun. So I guess we got a little lost with very strong winds pushing us. was a lot of discussion in the between the captain and the navigator. The navigator kept saying, after we got a position for the destroyer, that he didn't think we were on the right course, that his position was different than the position. And this discussion went on off and on. They would check charts and check whatever they could. In the meantime, it was a signal, and we would send signals back and forth, which were hard to see, 35, 40-foot wave. So the communications were not good with the destroyers, and the discussion on for some time between the navigator, who was pretty sure he knew where we were, the captain, who was willing to trust the navigator, but the senior officer was the boss. It's on the destroyer, and you couldn't very well argue the senior officer without being in trouble. The ice formed heavily on the ship. But to get from the bridge back to the radio shack, which I did every hour to the general conference, we had to go on hands and knees, hold on to the lifeline, and pull ourselves back up again in the meantime with the ship back and forth. And all that went that way until 4 o'clock in the morning, in this heavy, heavy northeast gale. Wind was blowing maybe 60 miles an hour. All of a sudden, with a loud crash, the ship stopped suddenly. The sirens went off for general quarters. The bugs fell. There was no light in the inside the ship anymore. Guys were stumbling all over the place. We were being knocked back and forth by the waves banging the ship. And I ran up to my position, which was at the searchlight, and sent a signal. We reflected off the clouds. And then one of the destroyers signaled back and said they were aground, and we said we were aground also. Meanwhile, the ship was being picked up. This whole big supply ship, a huge, huge, picked up by the waves and dropped down on the rocks, picked up by the waves and dropped down on the rocks. With the noise so loud, and rocking back and forth, it was so great, and the waves sweeping over the ship itself. Everybody almost covered life. And when to the third side on, we saw that we were only, seemed to me, a few hundred feet from the cliff. And I thought it was very funny because we're the big naval officers. And when I had sailed over before the war, one of the big disgraces is we ran aground on a sandbar. And here these naval officers put their ship aground on the rocks, the 200-foot cliff facings. So that's what happened before I could see where we were around. And then when I realized what was going on, it was a lot of fun, because it was pretty clear that this was going to be very difficult.
Thank you.
Okay?
Sort of moving up a little bit. As you're looking down in this that view.
Just,
If you see that?
yep.
Hi, Mr. Straus. My name is Daly Parent. After hearing you describe what happened on the night of February 18, 1942, I was wondering what was going through your head at the time the ship ran aground.
That's a big question. You know, it's pretty hard to tell what goes through your head at any time. But I have to admit, I never really forgot what was going through my head then. Something tells me that the impact is so strong not only on the ship, but on my head, so that I never forgot it. What happened is, first I thought, it was kind of funny. But then when the ship was being picked up by waves and slammed down, and soon there was oil all over the place. And soon I began to realize that we weren't going to be able to get ashore. And not long after that, the ship started to break up. All of a sudden there was a crack where the bridge was, which meant the whole forward side of the ship looked like it was cracking up. All lifeboats were turned into driftwood by the waves, just when a lifeboat. It's an interesting thought that goes through your mind when you watch a lifeboat. You're supposed to be in the same life of kindling wood, because 40 wet that broke up with these. Well, that's enough to make you start thinking vertically. Not long was it that it was cut right to the end, big sheet of ground. And then as the time went on, and this is hours now, the ship being lifted up, dropped back in the rock, back in the rock. And I began to realize there's a very good chance I'm never going to see my wife again. And that was such a sad thought. Then started thinking about how possibly am I going to get off this. And I walked through it, maybe read seat broke and so forth and so on. And we managed to get up line. Well, my thought. Let me think. I have to ask my daughter a question. She knows more about it than I do sometimes. Did the ship break up before I went over on the line or after?
I think the ship was getting drained, like it was gonna break, but the engine call. So you went over before that.
Okay. I got the information from my daughter about how I think. And as you know, that's usual for a man to be told by his daughter what he thinks. I had a line ashore. Had a line ashore with the grapnel. You know what grapnel is? Well, we put a line to the rock. The line swayed back and forth. Also, got washed over periodically with big waves that were going between the ship and the rocks. And I thought, oh, maybe I could be a diver when I was in college. So I could swim, I thought, forever. And thought, well, maybe I can go head over head, cross the line and get to the rocks. That way maybe have a chance of seeing my wife again. And I could trained well in the Navy. Must, because here I was going to risk my life in order to save my life, I hope, and then maybe the lives be on the ship. But I had to go, I went up to the captain to ask permission to go hand in hand over the line. Now to ask permission to save your life when you know probably everybody's going to die. Means you have a lot of training, I guess, because anyway, 4 of my shipmates took the line round because they were going to pull me back in case I got washed off the line with grapnel. And I went over the side. Meanwhile, the ship's going up and down, 30 feet, anchor rock, 30 feet, back and forth. And I started off in the line. So, if something, I get stuck. And just as I was reaching my foot out to the rock, wave hit and carried me down about 20, 30 feet, I think. And my life jacket pulled my head up by pulling up on the chin, and I was back on the surface. The only trouble was that the water was 30 degrees. Now, fresh water freezes at 32. Salt water takes longer. But you could imagine what happened when you are hit by water that's 30 degrees of temperature. And I don't know what that is in centigrade, but in Fahrenheit, it's close to freezing. And I couldn't move my arms. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't swim, couldn't stroke. I was frozen and incapable. And there was a little oil in the water because all the tanks had been and the oil had all leaked out. It was maybe bunker oil, maybe a foot of oil on the water. And I wasn't moving. And I thought, they're not pulling me down. And of course I started to yell, pull me up, pull me up. Nothing happened. And I couldn't understand it. I thought they would leave me there to die, and I was going to die very shortly. And then just as I lost consciousness, I could feel myself being pulled inside the ship. And I lost consciousness, and I came to on the ship. And the reason why they hadn't pulled me out, because the four of them were trying to pull me out on the rope. The rope was so full of oil that their hands just slipped. And the rope didn't move at all. And the coxswain, who was a friend of mine, Lord, he hadn't wrapped the rope, and then the other boy turned so it made himself huge wing. And that was the only way that I could have gotten up. And that was the last time I stopped want to go in that water because I knew it was over. So that was the last thing that happened before the ship broke.
Thank you.
Okay.
It was Newfoundland was the destination.
I'm sorry, would you mind repeating that? You were just moving the screen.
Want to repeat, Brandon? Very slowly.
Sorry. Hold on 1 second. Hold on 1 second. I'm doing it again. Sorry. Okay, that's good.
My name is Bree.
Can you see my handsome face? For me, it was that pause to say, yes, we see it.
My name is Brady Strang, and I will be interested in knowing how you felt when you realized you weren't in Iceland, and was Iceland the intended destination of the Pollux?
Well, our destination really wasn't Iceland. It was Placentia Bay. Not Newfoundland, but I'll tell you, at the right particular time in February, Newfoundland was so covered with ice, it could have been called Iceland. But the way I felt was, how do I get out of this? How does anybody get out of this? Because it just was possible to understand when nobody could get ashore. There was no way, and we didn't know about the Truxton because that was around the point and then the other cove. All we knew is that we were there and that the other destroyer also ran aground, but she got off with a big hole. She lay off us. what happened then was that shortly after I was back on board, one of the waves finally, in picking the ship up and dropping it down, forward of the, and we spent a lot of time breaking up the ship. Then, all of a sudden there was a crack in the deck of the cabin. And that meant back from there on, it went all the way to the bow of the ship, which had two big boats with new big cargo. Anyway, I stood back and I said, this is amazing. And then the crack got wider. And all of a sudden, one wave, the forward part of the ship, broke off, picked up, pulled aside, and dropped on the rocks, and all the cargo kept pouring out. That was the thing. It's meant and steel and food and loads of the stuff that we carried. And when that happened, it was really more scary than just about the ship breaking up, because we were on a ledge, port side, that's the left side. We were on a ledge, and the reading I got with the line showed that it was 20 feet. On the other side of the ship, the seaward side, the lead line showed that it was about 65 feet. So when the whole forward part of the ship got lifted up and broke off, everybody realized, certainly I did, that the rest of the ship could roll into this hole and turn over, and we'd be finished. Any question? Well, until the world for more, but stopped there. And the captains, realizing now that chances were that the ship was going to sink, gave permission for those who wanted to abandon ship. Now, when you're on a ship, and there is a real reason for the captain to say, abandon ship, it's one of the worst phrases you can hear. Well, over 100 men put cargo nets over the side. Meanwhile, you have to remember the ship's crashed back forth, ice and snow all over everything. Over 100 men went over the side, and of those, at least 50 or 60 have or smothered in the oil, and a couple drove up on the dock, and that's all. Everybody else that had bad ship died. Well, we managed to get a thin line over to the couple that were on the rocks, and they were covered with oil. They looked like they were all in wetsuits. They were so black and so shiny. And I stood there. One of them had no shoes. A lot of us had very little clothes. The freezing gale, snow-driven weather, and managed to put a heavier line on the light line and a heavier line on that. Men who managed to be thrown up on the rocks secured the line around. We made a bosun's chair. Bosun's chair is blind. You probably know what a bosun's chair is. We made a bosun's chair, and we had the heaviest officer go over to test it. And he went over with a wave, sitting in line with the bosun's chair, the heavy line. The one by one, about 100 men off the ship, including the captain. And Fred gave a big sigh of relief. We were sure we weren't going to sink on the ship, and so forth and so on, until we realized that we were sure on a ledge, but above us, between us and the land, really, is a 200-foot cliff. And we were trapped on this icy ledge. And every once in a while, this is what, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, 12 hours after we hit. Everybody frozen. We're on the ledge, and occasionally a wave would wash somebody off. And it was amazing, because here were all these people, death all around them, nobody pushing, nobody panicking, everybody just standing on the cliff, waiting for the tide really to take off, everybody realizing that they weren't going to live. And night came over there, and new moon came over the pool. And we all knew this was over. And before I knew it was over so sure, that just before the ship broke, I went down inside my, and I was knee-deep, and I opened my locker. I took a picture out of just my wife, and I put it in my life jacket pocket, knowing that this gave my body. My wife will know that what has to go with her, which is important. And that's how certain we were that life was over for us. And it was this great feeling, maybe it was because it was so cold, that it didn't seem terrible that life was going to be over. But certainly then I think some wished it was past. And now it's about 10 o'clock at night or so. This is after 4 o'clock in the morning when we hit, all this time. And as I said, it was over. We were all in a line on the ledge. And all of a sudden, we heard a voice. Over the roar of the waves, you have to remember, big seas crashing all this time. We heard a voice saying, "Is anybody found me?" Now, you can imagine what it must be like. You're in the darkness, icy cold, when you know that you're going to die. All of a sudden, here was a voice, and it was a Newfoundland voice, saying, "Is anybody there?" And of course somebody yelled, "You bet your life!" And well, a rope came down, and one at a time, one of the sailors tied the rope around each person, and they were pulled up, started. I think it was 6 people from Yorktown, who found us, and who found us, I don't think maybe another 2 hours and we all would have been dead. Because a boy, Jarvis, was hunting birds, and he saw what he thought was a ship way in the distance. Well, went back to the cabin where 4 men sitting around over the fire, over the stove, warming, I'm sure, telling jokes, stories, and whatnot. And he said he thought he saw a ship aground. Nobody paid much attention to him, because it was howling wind and snow and gale and everything else. He went back to birds, and one of the men, I think that he was a Manning, said, "No, I'm going to go out and see if it's that." So he went out half a mile where Jarvis, and sure enough he could see a ship against the rocks, the cliffs. I think they had to walk out 10 miles over the snow and ice crevices that are hard to believe that anybody could do. They walked that distance from London to where it hit, and just on the possibility that there might be somebody alive there. And went through all that, not knowing